The concept of final cause brings us close to the biological source of Aristotle's thinking. His expression, "that for the sake of which," corresponds closely to the biological concept of function. Aristotelian "that for the sake of which" is not in itself a concept of purpose. Aristotle makes this quite clear in the Nicomachean Ethics, where he tells us that purposive action is action that involves deliberate choice. But nature does not deliberate. The ends of nature are forms internal to the natural entities whose forms they are. At places, Aristotle does use expressions suggesting a less sophisticated teleology of deliberate purpose, such as "nature does nothing in vain," but we should attend to his explicit analysis of the meaning of nature and of final cause for his true view. Things, the things we meet in the world, oak trees and octopuses, are knowable because as such things, things of definite kinds, they contain in themselves determinate principles which make them the things they are, and make them undergo the transformations they undergo. Nobody, no Jehovah or Zeus, decides to turn a tadpole into a frog. But to be a tadpole is to be the offspring of a frog, engaged in the ongoing process of becoming an adult frog, according to the ontogenic pattern that is frog. There is no capital N nature, but each kind of being has its nature, which bounds its material aspect and orders its changing states towards the achievement of its appropriate final form. Aristotle's conceptions of being, of knowledge, and of man all depend on the recognition of such inherent principles in natural kinds of things. Aristotle's achievements in biology would be inconceivable without this fundamental recognition, drawn from observation, of the forms and functions characteristic of living organisms. Some accounts of Aristotle's biology hold that his genuine achievements, in particular his detailed knowledge of chick embryology, are compromised by his unfortunate lapses into a psychologizing or anthropomorphizing teleology. But this misunderstands altogether the character of his enterprise, both as a philosopher and as a biologist, for it is precisely his grasp of the operational principles of organisms, of the coincidence of form and function, that makes him at once the philosopher and the biologist that he is. As William Ritter wrote in 1932, the teleology for which Aristotle is roundly condemned by many present-day biologists, he was not at all, or very slightly, guilty of. On the other hand, those who condemn the teleology which he did hold, that of completed wholeness as essential to the adequate interpretation of any phenomena of nature whatever, are insofar not only failing themselves in reaching such an interpretation, but are tacitly denying the possibility of it. In short, it is the control of every step in a natural process by the character of the whole which serves as Aristotle's model for the final cause. To repeat, the character of the whole being controls every step of its development, and this is what it means to speak of its final cause. Purposive human action is a limited case of such forward directedness, with the added qualification of the knowledge and deliberate choice that humans bring to their human activities. Aristotle is primarily interested in the intrinsic directedness of organic development, which is not itself thinking or planned by thought, but which, like thought, is ordered and determinate. It is therefore an appropriate object for thoughtful examination by the philosopher-biologist. Aristotle finds his model of intelligibility in the observed, finite, and recurrent life histories of animals and plants, and in the structures which develop in those life histories. Without these form in individuals, no single item of knowledge can be knowledge at all. To detach efficient from final, or material from formal causes, as modern biologists profess to do, would be for Aristotle to throw the intelligible back into the unintelligible, to turn from the principles of things to their mere conditions. It would be to turn knowledge into the vain search for knowledge, to make of man a useless passion, as some modern thinkers do and perhaps must do, but as Aristotle decidedly does not. We do have knowledge, Aristotle believes, not because we can take the development of a chicken to bits as if it were an artifact, not because we can reconstruct the whole out of its parts. We have knowledge because there are wholes, that is, finite structures, developing as individuals but eternal as species, which it is within the power of our finitude, our specific form as human animals capable of memory, experience, insight, and rational discourse, to discover by induction and to elaborate in scientific argument. Without the directedness of nature, there would be nothing, no things, for us to know. And this directedness includes the directedness of our own existence, in which pure knowledge for its own sake is the highest and most fitting goal. This is not a teleology which takes some astute scientific observations and predictions and then adds to them some superstitious and ignorant remarks about nature's purposes. It is teleological science, that is, functional science, the study of the rhythms of change characteristic of living things. These rhythms cannot be understood, any more than musical rhythms can be, as aggregates of isolated bits. They are intelligible only as the whole patterns that they are. And in temporal patterns it is the outcome, the frog or the man, the rose tree or the thistle, that governs the pattern leading to it. The essential time scheme of Aristotelian nature is not prediction from present to future. It is prediction from future to the present. As Aristotle writes in Parts of Animals, thus matter and genesis must be first in time, but logically the substance and form of each thing is first.